Bullied fat kid to a fitness empire worth $150 million. At 13, Ben Francis was the kind of kid you'd see but never really notice. Soft around the edges, his school uniform always a little too tight. He spent most of his time trying to be invisible, but invisibility was a luxury he couldn't afford. His classmates, led by a particularly cruel boy named Mark, made sure of that. Every day was a gauntlet of whispered insults in the hallway and jabs in the ribs during lunch. The words fat and useless echoed in his ears long after the school bell rang. One afternoon, after a particularly humiliating gym class where Mark had pulled his shorts down, Ben ran home, tears blurring his vision. He slammed his bedroom door and collapsed onto his bed, the shame of physical weight on his chest. He hated his body. He hated the weakness he felt. But more than anything, he hated Mark. That night, something inside him shifted. The hurt began to curdle into a cold, hard resolve. He wasn't going to be a victim anymore. He pulled out his laptop and typed 2 words into the search bar: how to lose weight. This was the start. Ben spent hours devouring every article, every forum post, every YouTube video he could find about fitness and nutrition. He started with small changes. He swapped his daily soda for water. He started doing push-ups and sit-ups in his room, his muscles burning with an unfamiliar fire. It was grueling. The first few weeks, he saw almost no change. The kids at school were just as cruel, but Ben clung to a tiny spark of hope. He found an old, rusty set of weights in his grandfather's garage and began lifting. Each rep was a tiny victory against the voices in his head. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, his body began to change. The softness started to harden into muscle. He could run for longer, lift heavier. He started tracking his progress in a worn-out notebook, scribbling down every calorie, every set, every new personal record. The gym became his sanctuary. It was the one place where the only person he had to compete against was the boy he was yesterday. He started to feel a flicker of pride, something he hadn't felt in years. The insults at school still stung, but now they were fuel. Every taunt from Mark was another set of squats, another mile on the treadmill. Ben was forging himself pound by pound into someone new, someone strong, someone who would never be invisible again. By the time he was 16, Ben was unrecognizable. The shy, overweight kid was gone, replaced by a lean, confident young man. He was no longer just going to the gym. He was part of it. People started asking him for advice. How did you do it? They'd ask, their eyes wide with admiration. He loved sharing his knowledge, explaining the science behind a bicep curl or the importance of macronutrients. He found a new passion, not just in transforming his own body, but in helping others transform theirs. But he hit a wall. He found that the fitness apparel available was either too expensive, poor quality, or just didn't fit right on an athletic build. He remembered the constant frustration of his old clothes being too tight or uncomfortable. An idea sparked. What if he could create clothes specifically for people like him? Clothes that were functional, stylish, and made you feel good wearing them. He used the little money he had from a part-time job delivering pizzas to buy a sewing machine and some fabric. His bedroom, once a prison of shame, became his design studio. He taught himself to sew by watching online tutorials, his fingers often fumbling with the needle and thread late into the night. His first creations were basic, just simple t-shirts and stringer vests. He sold them to his friends at the gym, right out of the trunk of his parents' car. The brand, which he called Gymshark, started as a tiny one-man operation. He was the designer, the manufacturer, the marketer, and the delivery boy. He packed every order himself, writing a handwritten thank you note for each customer. The brand grew through word of mouth. People loved the quality and the fact that it was made by someone who truly understood the fitness lifestyle. Ben started an Instagram account, posting workout tips and showcasing his apparel on himself and other local athletes. Then came the turning point. Ben gambled everything. He took all the money he had saved, about £300, and bought a ticket to a major fitness expo. He knew he couldn't afford a booth, so he planned to walk the floor, wearing his gear and giving it away to the famous fitness influencers he followed online. For 2 days, he hustled, networking, and handing out his custom-made tracksuits. It was a massive risk. If it didn't work, he would be broke. He flew home, exhausted and anxious. The next morning, he woke up to his phone buzzing uncontrollably. One of the biggest fitness YouTubers had worn his tracksuit in a new video. Orders flooded his website. In 30 minutes, he made more money than he had in months. Gymshark had gone viral. The next few years were a blur of explosive growth. Ben dropped out of university to run the company full-time. The brand expanded from his bedroom to a small office, then to a massive warehouse. He built a team, hiring people who shared his passion. Gymshark wasn't just a clothing company anymore. It was a community, a movement. They sponsored athletes, hosted events, and built a global following of millions. Ben was the face of it all, the ultimate success story. He was living a life he couldn't have even dreamed of back when he was that 13-year-old kid hiding in his room. The company was eventually valued at an incredible $150 million. One day, Ben was walking through his state-of-the-art company headquarters. He passed by a wall adorned with photos of sponsored athletes, magazine covers, and milestones. He was a long way from delivering pizzas. His assistant approached him. "Mr. Francis, there's a Mark Edwards here for a job interview, for the junior marketing position." The name hit Ben like a punch to the gut. Mark? It couldn't be. He walked to the glass-walled conference room and looked in, and there he was. Older, a little heavier, his hairline receding, but it was unmistakably the same person. The architect of his childhood misery. Ben felt a storm of emotions, anger, vindication, and a strange sense of pity. He could have walked in there and destroyed him. He could have listed every cruel name Mark had ever called him. He could have laughed in his face and told him to get out. It was the revenge fantasy he had played over in his mind 1,000 times. But looking at the nervous man fidgeting with his cheap tie, Ben didn't see a monster. He just saw a man trying to get a job. He took a deep breath, straightened his own tie, and walked into the room. He extended his hand. "Mark, it's been a long time. I'm Ben Francis. Please, have a seat." Mark's face went pale as recognition dawned. Ben conducted the interview professionally, asking about Mark's experience and his vision for the role. Mark was flustered, stammering his way through the answers, clearly intimidated. After a few minutes, Ben leaned back. "Mark," he said, his voice calm and even. "I remember you from school. You probably don't remember me." Mark's eyes were fixed on the table. I do," he mumbled. "I'm sorry. I was a stupid kid. I was horrible." Ben looked at him, and the last vestiges of his old anger finally dissolved. "We were all kids," he said. "People change. His company was built on the idea of change, of becoming a better version of yourself." He paused. "The job isn't right for you. Your qualifications don't match what we're looking for." Mark's shoulders slumped in defeat. "But," Ben continued, "I saw in your resume you have some experience in logistics. We have an opening in our warehouse operations. It's a starting position, but there's room to grow if you work hard." Mark looked up, his eyes wide with disbelief. You'd give me a job." Ben simply nodded. Forgiveness, he realized, wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing not to let the past control you. True strength wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about having the power to crush someone and choosing to lift them up instead. Ben had built his empire on a foundation of pain, but he wouldn't let that pain define his legacy. He had already won. Thanks for watching. If you were inspired by this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.